What's going on, guys? I'm Blitz,
I'm Gigs.
and welcome to episode number 13.
12.
12.
That's embarrassing.
Every time, bro.
We're in a car this time.
We are in a car this time. Due
You
to
said
due to
You said it again.
circumstances out of our control, we had to improvise today. So
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it.
All right. What are we starting with?
I think you wanted to touch on the Cowherd thing that you saw earlier this week.
Cowherd. So this clip is from like a month or two ago, but the whole talk around the NBA, there's a lot of whole talks around the NBA. The overarching theme that I've seen as a pretty non-basketball guy, but this leaks into my feed no matter what, is that politics have just infiltrated the NBA way too much, and it's affecting every aspect of the game. I think it's a little bit of correlation and not causation. Like, I think it's absolutely true that politics are in the NBA, and they have been since 2020. The same way they have been in the NFL, and they're just starting to go away now. And I think there are issues in the NBA as well that, stem from the modern offense being too bland, too white bread. But I don't necessarily think that everything he said in this clip was totally valid. And just to explain, like, for reference and like my stance on it, it's like we look at the NFL and their ratings didn't dip when they put end racism in the end zone.
Right.
Like, it had nothing to do with that. I understand that people want their, run and gun, hard-nosed football. You're going to put your head down and you're going to work for it. You're not going to wear a guardian cap. If you get concussed, you're going to go right back in the game. People hate Tua. People hate DeMar Hamlin. There's no real good reason why. Like,
Right.
These guys are putting their lives on the line every day, and so what if they make $60 million to do it? My frustration is just that, like, this doesn't have to spread to basketball, which is a sport where we play 82 games in a year and then playoffs, 7-game series. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that Cowherd, somebody who's in licensed sports media, is taking a political stance to oppose LeBron taking a game off every month.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of issues there. Like, the first one I kind of want to jump into is really the white bread analysis used regarding the play style of each team right now. I think the fact that every team is either taking a three-pointer or a dunk, like you said, it's just really not appealing to watch. It was fun when we saw the Warriors do it with three of the best shooters of all time during their run. But seeing, the small forward of the San Antonio Spurs, who I can't name off the top of my head, shoot 8 threes a game, that's just not fun basketball. That's not something I want to watch. I've seen a lot of ideas as to how to fix that aspect of the game, and one that I really like is changing the dunk to worth 3 points instead of 2. Now, that would definitely, impact the record books a good bit. It would inflate, paint dominant guys, points that they'd end with by the end of their career for sure. But at the same time, I think we want to incentivize players to play above the rim. Another issue that I want to tackle into in a few minutes is the fact that the United States doesn't have, like, other than their aging guys like LeBron and Steph, like, they really don't have a guy who's going to take over the league. Mm-hmm. Something that the NFL was blessed with is going from Brady straight into Mahomes. Like, that's two United States bred superstars that basketball just really hasn't had. Like, they have all these European guys like Giannis and Jokic, etc., that are running the sport, and it's kind of hard for the American audience to get behind that. So I really think that, coupled along with, maybe a few tweaks to the rules, like we saw baseball do it, and it really hasn't affected their viewership negatively. If anything, it's grown since they tweaked the rules a couple years back. So I'd love to see those change, and maybe with a guy like Cooper Flagg out of Duke coming into the league, maybe he's able to take the league by storm his rookie year, and we'll really see what happens as far as trajectory goes there. But I don't know, it's really interesting how the United States just doesn't have, like, a top 5 guy. Like, what's your take on that? Because once LeBron and Steph and those guys retire from his class, like, there's nobody.
Yeah, you talk about the MVP leaders, and we're looking at Jokic every year. We're looking at Luka here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just like you said, I mean, even prior to Brady in the NFL, like Joe Montana, Dan Marino.
Yeah.
And of course, the NFL is more of an American sport
For sure.
than any other sport. It's getting to an international level, but even then, the U.S. is just way more dominant at it. You know, Florida, Texas, and California produce like 95% of football players in the world. But we also look at the NBA, and there's obviously American talent still, and guys with face of the league potential, like Anthony Edwards. And like, I don't necessarily think that it's an issue of misrepresentation, and that people are looking to see basketball become more American before we reach American audiences. Because at the same time, we look at it and it's like, NBA ratings are NBA ratings, whether they come from Toronto or not.
Right.
So I don't know that there's something about American politics that's polluting the NBA as much as the current like sports media would have you believe, because that happens in every sport. And Kaepernick taking a knee for the anthem, like, did that affect NFL ratings at all? Truth be told,
briefly it did, but it drove right back up, following his departure from the league.
And if anything, it brought more attention to the league as a whole. And yeah, it pointed out maybe an issue that a lot of other NFL players felt resonated with them. It was a huge deal. You had LeBron tweeting about it. You had sports media guys tweeting about it. But at the end of it all, yeah, like, if Kaepernick wasn't in a contract year, would that have happened? Were the politics that heavily involved in the sport at that point? I don't necessarily think so. And that's where I say that the NFL being the largest American sports market, it kind of should be the pinnacle. It should be what the NBA is looking to. And it's very unpopular with current NFL owners, fans, players when they make rule changes to benefit one side, like the hip drop tackle, like the tush push potentially being banned.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think with all that said, I think the NFL and sports like the UFC that you've mentioned to me recently, like, these are sports that are typically right-leaning, and the NBA is probably one of the more left-leaning sports, or at least divided sports politically. And whether you want to credit who's in office at this current time, or COVID, or there's a number of political factors that play into how outspoken these guys have been recently. But it's definitely been from the standpoint of like they definitely push their narrative in the sense that like whatever message that they're putting on the court or in the back of the end zone, like it's more prevalent in the NBA. And Cowherd did say people don't like politics with their sports. Some can bear it, and honestly, if people want politics, they'll go to CNN or Fox or wherever else. So, yeah, I think you make a good point there. Another thing you mentioned is Anthony Edwards and how he could potentially be like the face of the league here. The problem with that is like he's a superstar, no doubt, but like he's sitting here. I think he's leading the league in three-pointers this year, or at least three-point attempts. And it's like, this is one of the most prolific athletes in the league. And he's shooting 13, 14 three-pointers a game. Like, why is he not living above the rim? Which just really speaks to the initial issue that we mentioned, which is like the play style. And if we want Anthony Edwards to stop taking so many threes and show off his athleticism, we should incentivize him to do so.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. We got to look to the young talent to shape the future of the league, and that's where I feel like the NFL has just absolutely hit the jackpot.
Right.
Is that, yeah, you look at the league, and right now there are 5 or 6 guys who are arguably on that Mount Rushmore, the top 4, top 3. We're talking about Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, guys who play football like we've never really seen it before. They continually reinvent the game, and I think that's what makes it to where the game doesn't become repetitive.
Yeah, and I think another aspect to it is, somewhat related to the play style thing, but also not, is the fact that we watch these college football players for 3 to 4 years. We get attached to them through our college football programs, and then we see them get drafted to our favorite teams, and we have this connection to them, this affection because we've watched them grow before our eyes versus these NBA players. Like, this is some hot kid out of high school, plays 1 year at college, averages 15 points at a blue collar school, and then gets drafted in the top 5. And it's like, I don't know who you are. I don't. College basketball isn't the same way that it used to be, in the sense that people don't stay as long, and that makes that sport less enjoying to watch, which is why most people only tune in for March Madness. We don't get attached to the players in college. We're not as familiar with them when they get to the league. Hence why more teams are looking to the European leagues to draft their guys. So there's a lot of stems to this issue that we could really go on about for days here, but those are definitely some of the ones that stick out to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's no reason why the NBA should gross less total attraction over the span of a whole year than the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a per game basis, yeah, there's no way the NBA is going to perform like the NFL does, because the NFL makes every game super engaging. For 3.5 hours, it's 1/15 of your team's season.
Right.
Every game has a much larger impact in the grand scale.
100%.
But in the NBA, it's like, no, I'm not going to watch every Magic game.
Yeah, that's a great point too. The whole load management thing, whole other rabbit hole we can go down here, but like you said, the games just matter more when there's less of them. Like, it's the supply and demand thing. The NFL is pushing to expand their season, and I don't know about your take on that, but I think that would be a mistake. Like, we see what the long seasons in baseball and basketball do, and more people want to take time off, and the NBA has done some things here or there to try and combat that, whether it be a minimum game threshold to get awards or all NBA teams, etc. But
or supermax extensions.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think another thing the NBA could explore is maybe not shortening the season, but rearranging it. Why are they starting at the same time as football when Christmas time should really be the time that basketball season kicks off, goes all throughout the summer, and by the time that basketball season wraps up, that's when we're diving into football, really.
Yeah.
Maybe something as small as that, just changing the time of year they play, or even give these dudes a second All-Star break. I don't know. The All-Star game is a joke to them as well. This is used as time off. These guys don't actually hoop in the All-Star game either. It's really just a lack of effort when we do see these guys play, and it's really mind-numbing to watch. It's a lot of underlying issues here. I don't know. What's your take on load management?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point you made about the NFL, being in danger of crossing that NBA MLB boundary is spot on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk about, an 18th game being added to the season, and Joe Burrow's calling for a second bye week, and you can move the Pro Bowl to the second bye week, but it's not going to make the Pro Bowl more engaging, and it's not going to make that second bye week a serious week of rest, because these guys still have to be conditioned, wearing pads on the field. Yeah, I mean, truth be told, I think not even for the sake of just the record books, but also for the player health in general, 18 games is terrible. 17 games is already terrible. And even the additional team in the wild card, league expansion has started to turn the NFL into the NBA already. I just think the better quality product, the lower quantity of product is required.
Yeah, I agree with you. The quality of NFL output is definitely higher than the NBA output on a nightly basis. How would you, a big thing in the NBA is, sitting on back-to-backs, whether it be the second night or the first night, LeBron or Luka oftentimes, will sit out and take a rest day. What would be your thoughts of just maybe consistently it being once every 3 days you play a game, rather than stacking a bunch of back-to-backs on top of each other? Space the season out more, give these guys more time to rest in between the games. But maybe you do start in September and you end in July. I don't know. What would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not in the market to shorten your season at all, then I think the move should absolutely be just scheduling.
Right.
Scheduling is ridiculous in the NBA. We're seeing for the first time in the NFL 3 games in 11 days, and they can't handle it. So imagine playing 3 games in a week, which is just light work in the NBA. It's ridiculous, and their games aren't as long, but they're just as physically demanding. You're running both ways for 40 minutes, and that's just, it's unreasonable to think that the NBA is as physically demanding as it is, and core fans are still calling for more. To me, so yeah, I mean, I don't think that'd be unreasonable at all. If you're incapable of shortening the season, just stretch it out then. Because what's the harm? You're still clashing with the NFL season already. So how's it going to get any worse?
I like it. I agree.